There's a part of the internet most people never see, a place where the rules are different, where anonymity is currency, and where curiosity can quickly turn into regret. The dark web is a digital underworld, hidden from search engines and protected by layers of encryption. It's a place where secrets are traded, where the line between reality and nightmare blurs, and where some of the creepiest, most disturbing things ever discovered have left even the most hardened users shaken. Tonight, I'm taking you on a journey through 5 of the creepiest things ever found on the dark web, stories that will make you think twice before ever opening a Tor browser. It starts with a simple click. Maybe you're just curious, maybe you're chasing a rumor, or maybe you're looking for something you can't find anywhere else. But once you're in, you realize how easy it is to get lost. The first story comes from a user who thought he was just browsing forums for urban legends and conspiracy theories. He stumbled onto a site called The Red Room. The name alone was enough to send a chill down his spine, but curiosity got the better of him. The site was nothing but a black screen with a single chat box and a countdown timer. Messages scrolled by in real time, users from all over the world speaking in code, sharing links, and daring each other to stay until the timer hit 0. When the countdown ended, the screen flickered and a live video feed appeared. The camera showed a dimly lit room, a single chair in the center, and a masked figure standing in the shadows. The chat exploded with messages, some begging for the stream to stop, others egging it on. The masked figure began to speak, his voice distorted and impossible to place. He asked the viewers to vote on what would happen next. The options were horrifying, each one worse than the last. The user closed his laptop, heart pounding, but the image of that room haunted him for weeks. He never found out if what he saw was real or staged, but the fear was real enough. The Red Room became an urban legend, a warning whispered in online forums. Some doors should never be opened. The second story is about a file that circulated on dark web forums for years, known only as Obey. It was a video, just a few minutes long, but it left a trail of paranoia and fear in its wake. The video began with static, then cut to a series of flashing images, faces, places, symbols, each one more unsettling than the last. A robotic voice repeated the same phrase over and over. Obey, obey, obey. Some viewers claimed the video contained subliminal messages, hidden frames that triggered anxiety, nightmares, and even hallucinations. Others said it was just a hoax, a digital ghost story designed to scare the gullible. But then the rumors started. People who watched the video reported strange things happening in their lives. Electronics malfunctioning, lights flickering, and phones ringing with no one on the other end. One user claimed he started receiving emails from an address he didn't recognize, each one containing a single word, obey. Another said he found the word scrawled on his bathroom mirror, even though he lived alone. Whether the video was a psychological experiment, a piece of performance art, or something more sinister, no one could say for sure. But the legend of Obey became a cautionary tale. On the dark web, even a simple video can leave a mark that never fades. The third story is about a marketplace unlike any other. Most people know the dark web as a place to buy illegal goods, drugs, fake IDs, and stolen data. But some users stumbled onto a site that offered something far more disturbing: human experiments. The site was hidden behind layers of encryption, accessible only by invitation. The homepage was simple, a list of experiments, each with a price tag and a brief description. Some were medical, some psychological, and some so vague they defied explanation. Users could pay in cryptocurrency to sponsor an experiment, with the promise of receiving updates, photos, or even live streams. One user, a self-described dark web tourist, paid for access out of morbid curiosity. The updates he received were chilling. Photos of people in hospital gowns, strapped to beds, their faces blurred. The descriptions were clinically detached, as if the subjects were nothing more than data points. Some experiments involved sleep deprivation, sensory overload, or exposure to extreme temperatures. Others were even more twisted, hinting at procedures that crossed every ethical line. The user reported what he found to the authorities, but the site vanished before it could be traced. Whether it was real or an elaborate scam, the experience left him shaken. The idea that someone, somewhere, was willing to pay to watch another human suffer was enough to keep him off the dark web for good. The fourth story is about a service that promised to make your problems disappear, literally. It was called The Solution, and it advertised itself as a problem-solving agency. The site was slick, professional, and disturbingly vague. For a price, you could submit the name and details of anyone who was causing you trouble. The site promised discreet, effective solutions, with testimonials from satisfied clients. Some users thought it was a scam, a way to trick desperate people out of their money. But others believed it was a front for something much darker, a hitman service operating in the shadows of the internet. One user, a journalist investigating the site, created a fake profile and submitted a request using the name of a fictional character. Within hours, he received a reply, a detailed plan outlining how the problem would be handled, complete with surveillance photos and a timeline. The journalist backed out, terrified by how quickly the site responded, and reported his findings to the police. The site disappeared soon after, but rumors persisted that The Solution simply changed its name and moved to a new address. The idea that you could order violence with a few clicks was enough to make even the most jaded dark web users think twice. The fifth and final story is perhaps the most unsettling of all. It's about a collection of files known as the Gallery. The site was simple, a grid of thumbnails, each one a blurry, low-resolution image. Clicking on a thumbnail opened a larger version, along with a date and a set of coordinates. The images were all the same thing: empty rooms, abandoned buildings, and deserted streets. But in each photo, if you looked closely, you could see a figure standing in the shadows, sometimes just a silhouette, sometimes a face half hidden by darkness. Users who tried to trace the coordinates found that they pointed to real locations all over the world, some in major cities, others in remote, forgotten places. The photos were updated regularly, always with new locations, new figures, and new mysteries. Some users believed it was an art project, a commentary on surveillance and anonymity. Others thought it was something more sinister, a network of watchers documenting people who would never know they were being watched. The gallery became an obsession for some, a nightmare for others. The idea that someone, somewhere, was cataloging the world's forgotten places and the people who passed through them was enough to make even the bravest users log off for good. The dark web is a place where curiosity can quickly turn into obsession and where the line between fact and fiction is always blurred. For every story that gets debunked, there are a dozen more that linger in the shadows, whispered about in forums and chat rooms, growing more twisted with every retelling. But what makes these stories so powerful isn't just the horror. They're a reflection of our deepest fears about technology, anonymity, and the things people are willing to do when they think no one is watching. After the legend of the gallery spread, some users became obsessed with tracking down the locations in the photos. A few even traveled to the coordinates, hoping to find answers. One man, a self-proclaimed urban explorer, documented his journey to an abandoned warehouse in Eastern Europe that matched one of the images. He found the building exactly as it appeared in the photo. Same broken windows, same graffiti, same eerie emptiness. But there was no sign of the shadowy figure. Instead, he found a single USB drive taped to the wall, labeled only with the date from the website. Against his better judgment, he took it home and plugged it into an old laptop. The drive contained hundreds of images, More empty rooms, more deserted streets, more figures lurking in the background. Some of the photos were dated years before the website had even existed. The explorer posted his findings online, but the thread was quickly deleted and his account vanished soon after. Whether it was a hoax, an elaborate art project, or something more sinister, no one could say. But the sense of being watched, of being cataloged, stayed with everyone who saw those images. The dark web isn't just a place for the macabre. It's a breeding ground for urban legends, digital folklore that spreads faster than any virus. One of the most persistent stories is about a site called the Whisper Market. Unlike the marketplaces that sell drugs or stolen data, the Whisper Market was said to deal in secrets. Users could buy and sell information, personal confessions, government leaks, even blackmail material. The site was invitation only, and every transaction was encrypted and untraceable. Some claim to have found files containing confessions to unsolved crimes or evidence of conspiracies that never made the news. Others said the site was a trap run by law enforcement to catch would-be criminals. But the most chilling rumors were about the Whisper Files, audio recordings of people talking in their sleep, confessing secrets they didn't even know they had. No one ever figured out how the recordings were made or who was collecting them. But the idea that your most private thoughts could be stolen and sold was enough to keep even the most hardened hackers awake at night. Another story that refuses to die is about a forum known as the Dollmaker's Room. On the surface, it looked like any other hobbyist site. Users sharing photos of handmade dolls and trading tips on materials and techniques. But hidden in the private threads were posts that hinted at something much darker. Some dolls were said to be made with special materials, and users would brag about how lifelike their creations were. One user, curious and disturbed, managed to gain access to the private section. What he found were photos of dolls that looked eerily human, too human. The eyes were glassy, the skin too realistic, and the poses unnatural. Some posts included coordinates, dates, and cryptic messages about new additions to the collection. The user reported the site to authorities, but it disappeared before any investigation could be launched. The Dollmaker's Room became another cautionary tale, a reminder that not everything on the dark web is what it seems, and that some hobbies are better left unexplored. But perhaps the most unsettling thing about the dark web is how easily it can reach into the real world. One story that made headlines involved a series of mystery boxes sold on dark web marketplaces. The listings promised the unknown. Buyers would receive a box filled with random items, sometimes valuable, sometimes disturbing. Most boxes contained junk, old electronics, broken toys, and strange trinkets. But a few buyers reported receiving things that couldn't be explained. Handwritten notes in languages they didn't recognize, Polaroids of places they'd never been, even locks of hair or vials of unknown liquid. One buyer claimed to find a USB drive containing a video of his own house, filmed from outside his window at night. Another found a diary filled with entries that seemed to predict his future, including details about his job, his family, and even his dreams. Whether these stories were real or just elaborate pranks, they fueled a new wave of paranoia about the dark web's reach. The idea that you could order a box of secrets and end up with a piece of your own life was enough to make most people swear off the dark web forever. In the end, the creepiest things found on the dark web aren't just the sites or the files or the objects. They're the stories themselves. They're the sense that somewhere out there, someone is watching, waiting, and documenting every move you make. They're the realization that the internet, for all its promise of anonymity, can be a place where your darkest fears come true. And they're a reminder that some doors, once opened, can never be closed. If you've made it this far, you're probably feeling a little uneasy. Maybe you're thinking about the last time you clicked a suspicious link or the moment you realized someone knew more about you than they should. That's the power of these stories. They don't just scare you, they make you question the world around you. The dark web is a place of secrets, of shadows, of things best left unseen. But it's also a mirror, reflecting our own curiosity, our own fears, and our own capacity for darkness. Thank you for joining me on this journey through 5 of the creepiest things ever found on the dark web. If you have a story of your own, a moment when you stumbled onto something you wish you hadn't, share it in the comments. You never know who might need to hear it, who might find comfort in knowing they're not alone. Stay safe, trust your instincts, and remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that could happen to any of us.